Yeehaw! Time to get back to the world of An American Tale, ladies and gentlemen, because it's time for An American Tale Fievel Goes West! Like the first American Tale movie, I also haven't seen this one since I was a kid either. Now looking back at it, does it still have the same charm as the original? Let's find out. But first, a little backstory. In 1989, after Steven Spielberg produced some of Don Bluth's films, An American Tale and Fievel Goes West, he was interested in making his own animated projects, and therefore he opened his own studio in London called Amblimation. The first movie that they put out was Fievel Goes West, and how did it perform? Not well. On a budget of $16.5 million, the film only grossed a worldwide total of $40.7 million, of which $22.1 million came domestically. Now it could be possible that on top of the unappealingly mixed reviews, people have grown out of An American Tale since it was first released back in 1986. I don't know, but who knows what the real reason could be why not enough people went to see this sequel downtown. Sadly, Amblimation didn't last long and only ended up releasing 3 movies, all of which were box office bombs, including Fievel Goes West, of course, We're Back, A Dinosaur Story, and Balto. But luckily, after the studio closed in 1997, most of the animators moved to Spielberg's new animation company that he founded with David Geffen and Jeffrey Katzenberg, DreamWorks Animation. But back onto the main topic, which is me giving my thoughts on Fievel Goes West, and I think it's boring. Yes, I know it sounds kinda shocking when I say that, but I seriously thought this movie was really fucking boring. I barely had any memories of watching this as a kid, and now that I've rewatched it as an adult, I can see why. Before I continue, I would like to give the few positives that this movie has to offer out of the way. One thing that impressed me was the animation. Obviously. It's not 100% perfect, since some of the scenes, like Tiger trying to catch up with Fievel's train, feel a little too fast paced, and it's hard to tell what's actually in the picture, but the animation itself still holds up very, very nicely. Another positive is the voice acting. At least they brought back the original cast, or at least most of the original cast members, to play the characters. With some other big named actors like John Cleese and James Stewart, even Philip Glaser is back to play Fievel. However, when you compare Fievel Goes West to the first movie,
never say never, Papa. Wait, what's that over there? Now, this makes it a fair fight. That's right. I'm talking to you, forehead.
you could tell totally that Glaser has aged a bit, but it didn't bother me that much, to be honest. Okay, one more positive. Oh yeah, I like the look of one of the Indians. He just looked so cool with his giant feathers, and it somehow gave me a bit of a chuckle.
How do you do?
Yeah, that's all I've got. Okay, positives over. Now let's get serious by talking about this movie's story, which is really messed up. I will say the premise of this movie is fine. Fievel and his family are moving to the West, in which Fievel actually becomes a hero like the sheriff. That actually can be entertaining, if it was executed right, that is. With that storyline I just mentioned, it's mixed together with elements from the first American Tale movie and with honors. And this is the train wreck that we've got here. Not only is the story really dull and predictable, but also suffers from the lack of focus. That is my main issue when our characters are actually in the West. What exactly happened? It switches between Fievel trying to tell everyone about what the cats are up to Tiger being something like a god, to Tanya becoming a popular singer, to Fievel and the sheriff making Tiger to be a dog in order to save the day. It's just so confusing. Not even that romance story with Tiger or the musical numbers are able to keep the story feel engaging. Speaking of which, those scenes with training Tiger in order to have him like a dog, well, I guess those are interesting, sort of. However, that part doesn't show up until almost an hour into the movie, when your expectations for anything cool or interestingly unique have already been long dead. But what makes this movie more frustrating is actually regarding the humor, which is a major factor of quantity over quality. Well, okay, there are a few jokes that work, I will admit that.
Opulence of this saloon. Pussy, 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 pussy.
but the rest are barely worth a chuckle because they're either predictable or done very poorly. With such an awesome idea of Fievel being in the West, shooting with guns and everything, it's hard to believe that the film can't create a proper story for it. As for the characters, well, they're a mixed bag. It's hard for me to even tell that the movie sort of tried on the character development since it has no sense of direction. Like I said before, the movie doesn't know where to focus properly, which is why it's almost impossible for you to even care about most of the characters and their personalities. The only characters that actually work here are Fievel, Tiger, and the sheriff. Oh wait, I'm sorry, Wiley Burp Sheriff. No, really, that's his name.
Wiley Burp Sheriff?
The other characters that this movie centers on the most are just forgettably generic. Miss Kitty is just your beautiful, sexy babe that Tiger fell in love with. Cat R. Wall is the movie's villain and the leader of the gang. Yeah, what can you do about it? And then there's Tanya, Fievel's sister, who happened to have a beautiful singing voice that makes Cat R. Wall want to make her become a star. Yeah. Speaking of Tanya, as much as she's pretty forgettable, she isn't actually hateable, but she leads me to my next question. Was it really necessary to make this movie a musical as well? Okay, the first movie was a musical and it worked, I get it. But your story for the sequel is already screwed up to begin with, so no one is probably going to give a shit about your musical numbers. As if they wanted to try to cash in Disney's success with their animated musicals. Oh wait, they did try to cash in on Disney's success with their musicals. In fact, other movies tried that as well, but embarrassingly failed. It would have taken a miracle to make a movie like this become the pre-version of Anastasia. Holy shit, this sure was a letdown I had to sit through. Personally, I wouldn't recommend Fievel Goes West, but if any of you guys do enjoy it, that's totally fine with me. After all, this is my personal opinion. And as for my personal ratings, I'm giving this movie a 4 out of 10 and a red thumb down. See you later, dudes!